Hello everybody and welcome to my review of the 1952 film The Lusty Men, directed by Nicholas Ray and starring Susan Hayward, Robert Mitchum, and Arthur Kennedy. And I have to say, considering everything, I was pretty impressed by this film. And let me also quickly state that, while I will not specifically be giving plot details away, I will be referencing certain plot techniques which some people might consider a spoiler because it might help them figure out the end of the film. So with that being said, I will get into my review. Now this movie, the main plot is that we have a rodeo star named Jeff, and he gets injured so he cannot compete for a while. So he goes looking for other work, and he catches on and meets a young man named Wes, who has an interest in becoming a rodeo rider to make money quicker to get a place of his own. Now, of course, there is a wife in the mix here. Her name is Louise, and she is satisfied with where they're at and doesn't like the idea of Wes becoming a rodeo rider, fearing for his safety. This film is kind of a mix between a western and a drama, but to its credit, it never goes into too much over-the-top melodrama, which some films from the 50s had a tendency to do. And it also takes the three-way relationship kind of in an unexpected path and isn't as predictable as you might initially think. It's also pretty relevant today in some of its topics, I think. The film deals with couples who have somewhat different goals but still care about each other. It also kind of questions, is it worth it to pay any price to achieve your goals, and how far are you willing to go to get those goals? And also, is it a good idea to change your goals? Some people just have a certain thing in them, and that's who they are, no matter what. And the film doesn't really give a right or wrong answer. It kind of lets you contemplate these things, which was another thing that I appreciated about this film. Another thing that has to be mentioned is that there is a lot of actual rodeo footage and action in this film, which I felt held up well. And I admit I'm not someone who normally watches rodeo, but I was compelled enough by it. And there's quite a bit of it in the film, and it never really got monotonous, so that's definitely a plus. And I also think it helps that you cared about what the characters were going through, so it made the action part of the story hold up much better. And the acting is really good. Robert Mitchum, in my opinion, is pretty much good in everything. Susan Hayward is excellent in a role that could have been overplayed, but she doesn't overplay it, which is a credit to her. And Arthur Kennedy is excellent as well, and a very underrated actor. I believe he was nominated for five Oscars throughout his career, and he never won one, but this man is never talked about anymore, and it's kind of strange for an actor who is very, very good. So I think he's underrated. Another thing this film really deserves credit for is that the female roles are pretty good. The lead character, Louise, is a pretty good character. And even like what I would call the stock characters, the supporting characters, aren't just all stereotypical stand by and watch my man get banged up women. Most of them have unique personalities. They're all very different. They're not just all the same like they would be in some films. So, the film still does do like the, I'm a guy, I gotta be macho thing that was prevalent at this time. But the women characters aren't just all complete cookie cutter characters, which is a credit, to the film. It's not what we think of with a female role today, but for its time, I think it was definitely somewhat progressive in at least showing the females, as real characters, not just someone longing for their man all the time. So that's definitely a credit to the film. I do have a few issues with this movie. The first one is why I think both male leads, Jeff and Wes, are very consistent in their goals and motivations and as characters. I think Louise's character is a little bit out of character at times. Other people might find it to their satisfaction. I felt there were times she reacted a certain way just for the plot to be a little more dramatic, kind of as a plot contrivance, and I wasn't thrilled with that. Sometimes it's based on what we know of the background of her character. Some of her decision making doesn't seem to totally match that, in my opinion, and there's a few other odd scenes that kind of go on for a while, like at parties and stuff. I get what the movie's trying to show, the contrast in lifestyles and things, but some of these scenes came off as a bit odd, especially one at the end that feels a little forced, just like a plot device, instead of really being something needed. some of the other supporting characters, actually more of the male supporting characters, surprisingly, are very stereotypical characters you'd see in any movie from this time period, and they're just very cardboard characters. But none of those things really hurt the film. As far as the ending of the film goes, I have mixed feelings. While the ending does fit the film and make sense, it comes a little bit quick and out of nowhere. What I mean is, it's one of those endings that feels like something has to happen to one character for two other characters to end up in a better place or to learn a lesson, which, considering the film goes out of its way to not do these plot contrivances throughout the rest of the film, it was a little odd. The ending feels just a little bit contrived in this way. Not that it's a bad ending, it works, but it just feels like we need plot point A to happen so that plot point B can happen and we can have, a fairly, decent ending to the film. But I mean, the ending's okay. I just would have liked something a little stronger. It wasn't that strong of an ending to me, but it wasn't bad either. Overall, this is an excellent film that in some ways was ahead of its time in dealing with gender issues and career issues, and I think most people could relate to it. And really, I think this film's very underrated. The reason I heard about it is because I look at a lot of like best films lists and things like that, and I saw this film on a couple of them, but you don't really seem to hear about it in the mainstream that often. I think it's a bit of an overlooked film and definitely worth seeing. And I really like this one a lot. With a stronger ending, I think the film could have been even better, but it's an excellent film anyway, and I give The Lusty Men a 4 out of 5. Definitely an overlooked classic to check out, and as always, thanks for watching.